감사합니다. Welcome everyone. We are tackling a very large and critical topic here. We probably could have an entire seminar devoted to this, but we're going in the next hour and 10 or 15 minutes look at East Asian security and global media. And we have a quite diverse panel here today to help us through it. We're very honored, I think, to have some of the heavyweights in the Republic of Korea who really have focused on East Asian security for a number of decades. I'm not going to read out full biographies of everyone. That would take up perhaps the entire time if we listed all of their accomplishments. And also, our first speaker is on a compressed time schedule and will need to leave to catch an airplane in about 45 minutes. So I'm going to turn it over first to the former acting Speaker of the National Assembly. He is a current lawmaker in his fifth term and has extensive experience dealing with foreign affairs. He is really tasked on unification, foreign affairs, and trade, three particular areas that really play to East Asian security right now, and of course a lot of media attention on those issues as well. So let me turn it over to Speaker Eui-Hwa and give us a few minutes of your impressions on this topic, East Asian security and global media.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to deliver a keynote speech on the Global Media Forum, at the Global Media Forum. East Asia is emerging as global economies' new heart. Unlike advanced economies such as the US, Europe, and Japan, which are mired in prolonged recession caused by financial and fiscal crises. East Asia is continuing solid growth, serving as the relief pitcher for the world economy. The rise of East Asia has brought about great economic cooperation in the form of intra-regional trade and investment, and also expanded cultural and people-to-people exchanges. However, despite the remarkable economic progress and increased cooperation, East Asia still suffers from many challenging issues, such as poverty, disease, and conflict. These problems arise due to the great political, economic, cultural, racial, and the religious diversity and complexity in East Asia, which is one of the world's most densely populated and oldest regions. Furthermore, East Asia continuously experiences hot economies and cold politics, in which the level of political and security cooperation falls far short of that of economic and cultural cooperation. The region has engaged in political and security dialogues through multilateral meetings such as ASEAN +3, East Asia Summit, and the ASEAN Regional Forum. But these channels have not been entirely effective in addressing multilateral security issues. I believe such an imbalance in the area of cooperation must be resolved in order to bolster peace and security in the region to the satisfactory extent. What is most urgently needed to strengthen peace and security in East Asia is balanced regional growth. Development gaps have not only pushed the more advanced Northeast Asia and the less developed Southeast Asia apart from each other, but also undeniably hindered the integration efforts made by ASEAN, whose member countries demonstrate significant economic divides between each other. Narrowing the gaps between rich and poor countries require both strong support from the wealthier nations and continuously efforts from the less wealthy nations. People in the wealthier nations must understand the need for humanitarian causes, and the people in the less wealthy nations must have a passion for progress. I sincerely hope that the global media can help close the development gaps in East Asia by playing the role as the information provider and enhancing accuracy in covering regional events, thereby encouraging people to help and learn from each other. East Asian countries have as many similarities as differences in terms of culture and civilization, and thus have a very high chance of building a regional community. Nevertheless, East Asia has been experiencing substantial difficulties in creating a multilateral security partnership like Europe. Therefore, the best way to increase regional peace is to define and sharpen East Asia's identity based on its cultural similarities. I expect the media will play a particularly important role here, helping East Asians better understand one another. In this age of globalization, the global media has become more crucial than ever as a tool for communications. I am convinced that the global media can make the people of East Asia truly cosmopolitan and truly East Asian by promoting a mutual understanding and trust. Engaging, entertaining, and insightful and refreshing media contents of high quality will contribute to East Asia's step toward regional integration. And I, as an East Asian myself, look forward to seeing how far the global media can help the region to advance. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Speaker Chung, thank you very much for throwing out a gauntlet there and also giving us your perspective from the legislative branch of government. Our next panelist is going to bring to us his perspective. Currently, he's working under the Foreign Ministry, but also has extensive experience in the very venerable Korea Institute of Defense Analyses for many, many years, and can bring a slightly different perspective to this discussion. And I should note that actually Dr. Choi Kang, we share something else. We're both fellow Buckeyes.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who is from the state of Ohio or went to Ohio State University is a Buckeye. Dangong is, it doesn't quite describe it in Korean, but anyway, we're very honored to have you here with us today, and let me allow you to make some opening remarks.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Actually, I speak for myself instead of speaking on the official position of Foreign Ministry of Republic of Korea. Actually, I concur myself to what the Speaker Eui-Hwa has already mentioned, but actually it seems to me that the three words stand out in describing the security structure in East Asia. There's complexity, unpredictability, and instability. Because of the ongoing two trends of change, one is a structural change, the other is a contextual change. So let me start with the structural change in East Asia. I think everybody in this room is familiar with power transition in East Asia. Actually, what the Chinese influence is increasing whereas the US influence is decreasing. Actually, that trend has been with us for the past several years, but I think it will continue into at least the medium term. So what would be the implication for the other countries in the region? So we are trying to adjust ourselves to this new structural change, actually shift of balance of power in East Asia. So actually, this one aspect. Actually, the other aspect, which is closely related to the first fact is like we do the structural change. They try to set up the new norms or code of conduct in East Asia. I think will be an ongoing competition between these great powers. Who is going to set the new rules of game in this region? So I think we have to look at not only structural change, but also the setting the norms and rules and regulations which will govern the East Asia in the coming years and days. And then also the other powers like China and Russia try to realign themselves within this new contextual background in East Asia. So actually, we don't know yet what would be the most stable structure in East Asia. But actually, everybody knows that there's ongoing change in East Asia. So still, we will be experiencing some kinds of turbulence, as well as some opportunity to cooperate with each other in devising or consolidating new base for the stable security structure in East Asia. And the other is a contextual change. Actually, that's more problematic, because actually, nowadays, we are talking about the rise of nationalistic sentiment, not only in Korea, but also in China, in Japan, some other countries, actually. So I think that will be accompanied by unresolved issues like a territorial dispute or past history issue. If we combine these two things together, I think we will see more tough or maybe conflictual situation in East Asia. Because these issues, nationalistic sentiment, unresolved past history or territorial dispute, are not easy to solve at all. So that would damage the confidence in each other or undermine the trust among the countries in the region. While we are cooperating with each other in economic or trade front, but there are other emotional constraints in developing or further strengthening the cooperation in the non-security area. The other one is the problem is like this. Actually, if you look at the statistics, all the major humanitarian issues, including the natural disaster or man-made disaster, are happening in East Asia. So how we are going to deal with these humanitarian challenges like earthquake, tsunami, and also the other spread of this disease are quite challenging. So, but these issues drive the East Asian countries to cooperate very much. There is ongoing cooperation between the countries in the region in bilateral or multilateral forum. So how we can manage these things? Of course, Speaker Chung already mentioned the multilateral security cooperation, but I fully support the multilateral security cooperation, but I don't think we will be able to rather comprehensive or workable multilateral security cooperation mechanism in East Asia. Of course, ASEAN is one architect we can utilize, but there's a limit ASEAN can do or ARF can do because there are differences between Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia. But what will be the role of media? Let me show you, because actually everybody here actually representing some official media, but the problem is now we are living in an era of SNS. So like online media is sometimes much more powerful. The role of media is to limit the damaging which can take place by this official dispute between the countries. But my observation of this media dispute actually is kind of facilitator of the dispute rather than the constraining or reducing the problem. But the SNS is the one we cannot control, but actually SNS is very much powerful. So not only we are talking about the official media platform, we have to talk about the SNS, how we can use this different platform in boosting up the spirit of mutual prosperity and development in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Choi. You've definitely given us some food for thought, and I think when we get into discussion, we need to talk about not only traditional media, but social media and interactive media as well. I'm getting a message from Speaker Chung's secretary, that they're urging you to head to the airport, apparently, so you can slip out at any time you need.
you. Thank
I
you
just
very
wanted,
much.
they seem quite anxious to get you on your way to the airport. Hopefully you can stay a few more minutes, but if you need to leave,
Sure,
we'll
thank you, I'll
understand.
do.
Okay. Next, we're going to go to someone who has extensive experience as a policy advisor in this area for the government of the Republic of Korea. Professor Kim Ki-Jung is at Yonsei University in the Department of Political Science and International Studies, so bringing another perspective. So Dr. Kim, please give us a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Steve. I rather speak in Korean rather than English, for the Korean audience. East Asian Security and Global Media, 동아시아 안보와 세계적인 미디어에 관해서요. 먼저 저는 동아시아의 현재 안보
I have four
상황을
perspectives about
어떤
Northeast Asian security
관점에서
and media-related
바라봐야
issues.
하는가에 대해서 한 4가지 정도를 먼저 얘기를 할까 합니다.
I will reiterate the important concepts in English
제가
again.
영어로 다시 좀 되풀이를 하겠습니다만 2차 대전이 끝나고 난 이후에 유럽이 경험했던 것이
It is important to realize the fact that Europe and Northeast Asia have a completely different background in terms of history.
유럽 전체 공동체의 과정을 거쳐서 통합에 이르렀다는 역사적 사실과
After World War II, European nations were able to create the European Economic Community and later the current European Union to resolve state conflicts.
유럽이 갈등을 넘어서 협력을 넘어서 통합으로 가게
When comparing how Europe was able to move towards cooperation and integration, we can deduce four major security issues within Northeast Asia.
특징들을 보이고 있는데요. 4가지 문제가 아닐까 생각을 합니다. 한 가지는 불안정의 지속이라고 부를 수 있는 것인데요. 영어로는 sustained insecurity.
The first one is continued insecurity. In Northeast Asia, there has been many factors that undermined the security of the region.
해답을 찾기 전에 굉장히 많은 안보를 저해하는 요인들이 지속적으로 존재해 왔고 또한 강화되어져 왔다는 점입니다. 이 속에는 물론 동아시아가 세계 어느 지역보다도
Northeast Asia has intense military confrontations and continued military buildups. North Korea is another important factor with its nuclear ambitions.
하나가 물론 북한의 핵 무장과 관련된 긴장 국면이라고 볼 수가 있습니다. 두 번째의 동아시아 문제는요. 두 번째는
Second, Northeast Asia has a complicated historical background. If I say it in English, it is confrontation and distrust about historical memories.
이것이 동아시아의 여전히 오늘날의 현재의 국제 정치를 지배하고 있는 기업.
The intertwined history that is embedded in the international politics of this region is what makes it so unstable. There is a lack of reconciliation.
Lack of reconciliation. 그러니까 역사적인 화해의 결여라고 볼 수가 있겠습니다. 세 번째는 제도적 장치의 부재라고 부를 수가 있는데요. 영어로는 lack of institutional settings to manage the regional security order.
Third, the region lacks an institutional setting that is a prerequisite for regional stability.
말하자면 제도적 장치를 발전시키지 못했다는 거예요. 이게 최근에 이제 육자회담과 같이 북한 핵 문제를 다루기 위해서
Northeast Asia hasn't been able to develop that system. We have the six-party talks, but we do not know if this form of system will be successful in the future.
국가 안보를 넘어서서 공동의 안보,
Europe worked
협력적
towards a
안보를
common
추진해왔던
security,
유럽과
but Northeast
비교해보면
Asia lacks that.
동아시아에 있어서 이런 지역적인 안보를 다룰 수 있는 제도적 장치가 부재했다는 것입니다. 그리고 마지막으로 내셔널리즘 문제입니다. The vortex of militant nationalism 문제. 동아시아
And last, nationalism. Nationalism in Northeast Asia is very strong and at times very hostile.
여전히 국제 정치를 움직이는 중요한 동력 중의 하나로 작동을 하고 있습니다. 이것과 연관되어져 있는 것이 바로 territorial dispute. 또 혹은
And this relates to territorial disputes among neighbors and the distortion of historical facts in Japan's history textbooks and problems such as compensating Korea's comfort women.
이런 것들이 해결되지 않고 있는 것이 바로 여전히 이 동아시아에 있어서는 굉장히 공격적인 내셔널리즘이 국제 정치에서 우리가 간과할 수 없는 요소로 작동을 하고 있다. 이런 거예요. Will I have a second chance to talk? Okay. So 이게 지금 제가 네 가지가 본 표시인데 뭐 나중에 얘기를 위해서 한 마디만 좀 더 말씀을 드리자면 동아시아의 안보 문제는 여전히
Security in Northeast Asia is still at risk, and I will ask some questions to people who work in the media
이게 이제
business.
언론에 계신 분들이 있기 때문에 I'm going to raise a question to you guys that mass media가 tend to accelerate the tensions of East Asian insecurity. Don't you guys have any responsibility to accelerate or to reproduce the tensions in East Asia? That is the question that I like to raise a question. Okay.
Thank you very much, Steve. So previous distinguished speakers said a lot about East Asia in general, so let me please talk about smaller region, I mean Korean Peninsula, and more particularly about North Korea. Actually, but if we talk about North Korea, it's probably one of the biggest, I would say, headache for the East Asia in general. So I would like to speak from the point of view of Russian journalists. Actually, we in Russia stay in a quite unique position. We, as well as Chinese journalists, are allowed to stay in DPRK, and we are allowed to open our offices. And sometimes I hear questions from my friends, Korean journalists, who say just, why don't you or some other Russian journalists, why don't you produce some very unique stories about North Korea? And I would like to explain what kind of problems we face and why we do not differ much from other mass media of other countries. So though Russian journalists theoretically may stay in the DPRK on a long-term basis, the activity faces a lot of limitations, actually. Actually, it is almost impossible to report anything from the DPRK besides positive news, which usually copy the content of the North Korean official media. I mean, if you try to write something critical about North Korea, the story is quite short. North Korean authorities usually they ask to change the journalist, but if nothing changes, they usually they order to leave the country. There were some accidents of this kind, not in the recent years, but before. So the journalists who stay in North Korea, Russian journalists who stay in North Korea, actually we have now only one of Itartas news agency. They face a very big problem. They cannot write everything they want, and they have to write only positive. It's quite a big problem, and so that's why most stories about North Korea on the Russian side, they come from the bureaus which are based in Seoul or in Tokyo. This is one problem. On the other side, there are also problems with the Russian journalists and the mass media themselves. Actually, we do not pay much attention to North Korea in general. Like almost every Korean newspaper has a section of North Korean news, but we do not. I can speak about my personal experience. When I stayed in Moscow, I was in charge of East Asia news in general, but after that I was asked to also include Central Asia and news about Afghanistan. And North Korea issue was only on the topic during some few moments, for example, nuclear explosions, missile launches, and something like this. And that's why it's quite difficult to be a good specialist only about North Korea or in Korea while you stay in Russian media. You have to pay your attention to very broad issues, not only to Korea, and that's why we also feel quite a big problem of experts on the Russian journalists. Quite often, people writing news about DPRK, they do not know the issue very well, so that's the problem. So another problem also, it's a lack of Korean language ability on the part of journalists. And as a result, Russian media covering the DPRK issue depend on English version of South